world on your shoulders. Breathe in, breathe out, let it go. I know you're tired of stressing. I know, yeah. Breathe in, breathe out, let it go. Let it go. I know you're tired of stressing. Let it go. Let it go. Let it go. I know you're tired of stressing. On your shoulders. Breathe in, let it go. I know you're tired of stressing. On your shoulders. Breathe in, let it go. 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 Just breathe.
Microphone check. 1 2 1 2. What up, family? It's your girl, JustPatrice. Live with JustPatrice. BlowRadio.com is definitely in the building. I just want to remind y'all it's Monday, baby, and we about to get it in. Y'all know how we get it in every Monday, 1 to 4 p.m. Central Standard Time. It's my pleasure to be able to hang out with y'all, chop it up with y'all, share some of this good information, good vibes, and like every week, I have all all of the most terrible technical difficulties. And today was just, like everything else. I do have some great guests that are going to be either calling in or actually hanging out with me today. Look at my homeboy sitting in the building. So I'm glad that we get the chance to chop it up and have like the conversation I want to like really go in. And in order to be able to do that, I want to make sure. Hey Todd, how you doing? Hey Mario. Make sure we cross a couple of T's, dot some I's to get it in. If you're listening to the radio show, of course you are logged into blowradio.com 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Where else could you possibly even want to be? I mean, it's places, but you chose to be here and we are thankful, right? So if you're watching the show, that means you are tuned into social media. So you may be on my YouTube page, which is great. Hey, y'all on the YouTube page. Shout out to you if you are tuned in to us live on Facebook. That's great. You might be in the blowradio.com group. That's cool too. Want you to be there. Want you to be able to chop it up, make your comments, leave your comments so that we can exchange. I see y'all chiming in. Make sure you say hi. When you do, say hi. Say hi. So I know y'all here. I see Mario checked in. I appreciate that. Tatiana Thompson checked in. Face Flare in the building. Lorena Star Marie is in the building. Crystal, hey baby, how you doing? Glad to have y'all join the conversation. So I think that's about everything. Make sure. Oh, I almost forgot. Share the video because that's what's important. Today's topic is like crucial, no more so or less, in my personal opinion, than all the things we talk about. But I really want to make sure that we are promoting engagement. Specifically on this topic, we are going to be talking about suicide. We are going to be talking about depression. We are going to be talking about mental illness, and we are going to be doing so with some male engagement so that we can talk. I have questions for these fellas about, I know they don't have all the answers for all the guys, but I want them to give me the answers for what they got. And that'll work for me. And at least we'll have some a starting point to getting somewhere. Again, today we are not trying to find the answers to why. We're going to see how to make it better. We're going to talk and we're going to acknowledge this is what we're doing. We are acknowledging that this is even something that needs to be dealt with. We're not trying to skip through the whole 12 process. We're not trying to skip through the whole 7-stage process, 12-stage process, and just get to the end. Well, what are we going to do about it? How about we just going to start by acknowledging that this something needs to be addressed. And this is the things that we need to be doing. We can start with some referral. We can start with some directive. But the first thing we need to do above all that is even to acknowledge it. We're not going to push past the idea that men are people. They are human. They have feelings, and they are entitled to all of the feels, just the same that we are. We expect them to handle it different. Why do we expect them to handle it different? Why are we expecting their shoulders to be emotionally differently structured than ours as women? What are they expecting from each other? When it comes to how we having these conversations, how do you talk to your brothers? What do y'all talk about? Do y'all talk about it? I got questions, a lot of questions. But we want to shout out my sponsors for today. Of course, we're going to shout out Calm Wellness Services, where you can come and get those hands put to your life. We're going to make some changes in how we are managing ourselves completely from the inside and out. And we're going to start with a simple touch. Make your appointment at Welcome. That's WELKALM. Like, welcome is up, or wellness calm, but welcome, all one word, WELKALM. And check it out. Also brought to you by JPA Elevated, because who else would you get your CBD infused products from? So if I make CBD creams, make CBD oil, infused sugar scrubs, and quite a few other options. And those are the products that are used at Calm Wellness Services, also available here in KRS Hair and Wax Studio and at the River West Co-op. So if you'd like to pick them up, you can visit our website at jpaelevated.com, or you can go to one of these amazing sites. KRS Hair and Wax Studio is located at 832 East Locust Street, and the River West Co-op is located at, and do not make me lie, it's in the 700 block of East Locust Street, excuse me, East Clark, off of Center Street. So stop by there as well, the River West Co-op. But I want to remind you guys also that this particular episode is brought to you by Balanced Cocktail Lounge. If you notice that I'm not in the regular space, we're hanging out in our spot. We got a nice little cocktails I made, my guest and I, drunk at Arnold Palmer's. And I believe that they're delicious. But we'll talk about the deliciousness of that in just a moment. And I think that is pretty much all of the things. If you want to come down and join the conversation, I'm going to invite you to do so. You have until literally 4 o'clock. So you got 2 hours. If you happen to be in the area of 832 East Locust Street, you are welcome to come down and sit and chop it up in the audience areas. A couple seats here. You can sit. You want to patronize the bar, you're welcome to do that. And then join the conversation. Please share the video. I want all your friends, your families, and your cousins, your uncles, them to be knowing about this particular conversation. Ugh. Now, let me make sure I got all my stuff. My stuff. My stuff. Yes. Okay, got it. All set. So my first guest, and who happened to be here, and while I was fumbling through all of my stuff, been very patient with me through all of my technical hoo-has, and that's what I'm gonna call him, is my very, very, very dear friend, Mr. Dismuke. Let me turn your mic. Let me turn your mic up. I know which mic you got. Let me make sure I turn the right one in. Go ahead.
Check, check, check.
Look, I found it.
There we go.
Mr. DeMonte Dismuke is in the building.
What's going on?
Good, love? How are you?
I'm great. I'm great. I'm great. How are you? So happy to be here.
Wonderful. I haven't seen you. I've been knowing you for a lot of years.
Yeah.
That's like a lot of years. That's dope, though, right?
It's been a minute. Yeah.
Right. So we have some great musical background between the two of us. Great artist relationship. Amazing guy. But from a more professional standpoint, he is a public health practitioner. He is also the host of, and it's called A Dope Public Health Podcast, right?
That's right.
Which is what is it? Is convenient for folks throughout the African diaspora. What? Diaspora. I'm like, what is he doing to me over here? Who are advocating for health equality. So this is like right up his alley.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so excited that you opted to be here today. Shout out to Tasha Jones, Crystal Stipp, Lisa Mueller for chiming in. Tell us a little bit about your background, and I might every now and then, just so you know, call you speak. I'm gonna try to do my best. I'm gonna do. I promise. I'm gonna do my whole best to be like DeMonte.
No, that's cool. That's cool.
You know what I'm saying, Mr. Dismuke. I'm gonna do my best, but I'm like, look, speak. You know,
Word. No, that's
my
fine.
bad. Okay,
that's fine.
So tell us a little bit about your background and as far as health work and public health work. How does that work?
Yeah, I would say I think I got my start way back in 2008, and how it initially started. I started a business with my best friend. Shout out to Trip. What we did, we wanted to focus around young African-American males. So we started in an after school thing where we were doing just group facilitation with them infused through hip hop. Also,
Nice.
shout out to, Sosei and Time through H2O. They've done very similar work. So that led my thirst to community work and just working in community. From there, I happened to then get a job where I was working directly with children and families in the community, focusing on mental health. So it was a different thing working with folks that, like, okay, this person has this diagnosis. And then I was introduced to just the whole field of mental health and been able to partner and get leadership and guidance from like psychologists and psychiatrists. And from there, my thirst just kind of kept going. And I myself at this point, I've studied clinical mental health, as well as I've received like some trauma informed care training to really just allow me to help continue to doing the work that needs to be done in the community.
Indeed. So, like from the standpoint of an artist, how does that relate to some of the things that you are coming into? Like, so you come from naturally an education background in
Mhm.
health and mental wellness,
Right.
and then as an artist, you also have an opportunity to spread and create, and for yourself find a way to move some of that energy around. So, how do they relate?
Oh my goodness, they're definitely related because the people that influenced me to do hip hop were the Public Enemies of the world, the NWAs of the world, where a lot of people don't remember this part about NWA. They also were reporting what was happening in the neighborhood that we live in. If you think about
Mm.
public health is what's happening in the neighborhoods that we live in. So that probably, which happened at a very early age, hip hop was my introduction to mental health and public health.
You don't say. So you know what? You always like, well, it's hip hop. You throw them right
Yeah.
in real quick. You won't give props to hip hop
Yeah.
like you supposed to. Like that's your like the core of what you do. How did you find a way? Like if you feel like that's where you got that from you, and they were reporting the times of your day. Like
Mhm.
how did you come from the mindset of I'm gonna be responsible for giving back in a way or helping any way that I can to help manage mental health
Yeah,
disparities.
I think it's happened when always I started. I actually started down the corporate America track. I worked in human resources for like 10 years,
Okay.
but then I started to experience some of the things that we talk that a lot of hip hop talks about in their music, the songs, as far as like the profiling, the discrimination, and things
Mm,
like that. So
okay.
what that did, and I'm living in 53206 at the time. So like, you mean to tell me I'm coming from 53206? I'm driving all the way to the suburbs, being profiled. That was my, as Killer Mike said, my trigger warning. I need to do something. You can either complain about it, or do something. At that moment, I decided to change my career, and that's when my focus went to serving the community. Like, and I just haven't looked back since.
So and I'm gonna ask this, and it's gonna sound real devil's advocate
Go
ish.
for it.
Okay. Um, I've worked in the youth development since I was 17. So
Hmm.
we talking lots of years back. Okay. But what I'm hearing from you is um I found my passion, and so I experienced some things. I feel like I can do something to connect and make a change in that or whatever the case may be. And so I'm going in.
Hmm.
My question to you is, with the layers of trauma, issue, disparity, all the negative stuff that we can talk about that's happening. And you did mention 53206.
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying? With that, like how do you press past that concept? And it's like I'm here and I'm in.
Yeah, I think it's, to me, it's pretty simple. It's like, well, you either do something or you don't.
Oh, okay.
It's like, and you can be mad at leadership, oh, the government this, oh, the community leaders this, or you can just do something. A lot of the people that we talk about this time of year, they didn't do it by themselves.
Okay.
And we wouldn't have been able to make change if it wasn't for folks just deciding to dedicate, in a sense, their lives to change. So that's kind of how I look at it. And I had really good mentors that told me, yo, don't think you're going to save the world. It's like making an
Mm.
impact, like one person at a time. That's the best you can ask for. Don't think that you're expected to move masses and all of that. Like, don't let your ego get in the way of like doing good work.
Just do the work.
Just do the work.
And be it one or 1,000.
That's it. Yeah.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Indeed. So y'all ready? As a black man,
Hmm.
coming out of 53206. And if you don't know the history of 53206, y'all, I want y'all to get y'all some background, study it a little bit, look it up. 53206 Milwaukee. Okay. Knowing what we know
Mm-hmm.
of that area where we talk about this deficit of intelligence, deficit of kindness, gentleness, wellness, mentally, emotionally, physically, let alone spiritually.
Yeah.
Like all of these things. Like, where did you come from?
Right.
You see what I mean?
Yeah.
So, like, if you're an example of what could be
Mm-hmm.
out of that, is it is a part of you to say, I want to help make that happen in this area? I want it to be more of me's.
Yeah, I think honestly, I would go back to my upbringing. I was raised by my grandparents,
Mm.
so my grandparents were from Louisiana. So I always tell people, city boy, country ways. I got raised myself, my siblings, my uncles and aunts, like to move a certain way,
Okay.
and family was big, but family wasn't just the people that we was related to.
Okay.
Family was the folks down the block. You couldn't go down the block and act a fool when you know they're gonna call grandma.
Right.
So that sense of community was instilled in me earlier, and like it just naturally, when you think about it, for me, it just came back to me that you know what, community has always been the backbone. So like, if you got to make a living out here in the world, why not make a living serving the community you live in?
Okay. So even deeper than that,
Mm-hmm.
as a black man who has dealt with being profiled, and I'm sure a myriad of other um, injustices
Yeah.
based on just what you look like off jump. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
How is this not too heavy a burden for you?
I look at it like it's not too heavy of a burden because I'm not the only one doing it, and it's other. I mean, I come from a long line of strong black women, and my grandma instilled in me very early who I was, and she never let me forget it. So because of that, I feel like I'm in the extension of that black queen. You know what I'm saying? So like for me, it's been very easy. So it's like, well, you got to do her proud. You got to do your mom proud. You got to do your family proud. And what better way to doing that than like, okay, I'm going to contribute to it. And it's not easy. I tell folks, like, for example, focusing on mental health and things like that, my therapist is my BFF. So I
Facts.
normalize that, and from whether I'm in the workplace or whether I'm at home, like I keep a regular session with my therapist so I can keep balance. So for me, it's like, well, why not? A lot of things are difficult in life, but I mean, this right here, when you see people like changing and creating great outcomes in the community, like that's where it's at. That's what this whole experience of life is about.
Okay. So is that to say that your shoulders don't get heavy?
Oh, they definitely get heavy.
Is that to say that you don't deal with trying to figure out how to manage your peace of mind?
No, you do. You have to. It gets extremely heavy, and some days it gets way more overwhelming than others. But the biggest thing, like one of the things that my trauma informed care teaching has taught me and stuff like that, like the agency I work for, like one of the biggest things we always reach out for and talk about is caring connections. You gotta have people that support you.
Hmm.
There's not one person out here doing extremely well by themselves. So for me, I surround myself with people that I can count on and lean on, where I can kind of keep doing what I do.
The reason I'm asking this part of the conversation
Hmm.
before we get into the
Word.
peeling off the layers is because I need them to understand that you are proactive about um, being able to be well so that you
For
can be
sure.
forward to be help someone else be
Oh
well.
my goodness, yeah.
And so we can get into those. So we start talking about peeling layers and be like, yeah, dudes do rib. And yeah, guys, and how are you managing that? You're not messed
Hmm.
up in your head yourself. You just I make my therapist my best friend.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? It's a whole shirt. Trip, where you at? That's you, but that's
Yeah.
the thing. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I wanted people to see that you are doing the work for self.
Oh, for sure.
You know what I'm saying?
You
Because we're
can't.
going to
Yeah.
get to the we're talking about the people in the community, but you are doing the work for self. That means I'm visiting someone, I'm talking with people, I'm actively doing these things.
Yeah.
So I brought that so that we can say, now let's talk about what are some of them layers that we have to pull away? What does
Yeah.
it look like for men? And it was Black History Month, but period. I'm gonna talk specifically
Yeah.
Black men. You are a Black man, so let's talk about that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Having like emotions and feelings and like not aside from anger.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you because what happens is how we were raised. You can feel two emotions, extreme happiness or anger, and it's put on as if there's no in between, right?
Mm.
So what I've been able to do is when you have people in your corner that support you being yourself authentically, I tell people I don't shy away from not one emotion, not one, and it doesn't matter the environment that I'm in. I try to show up as authentically as I can myself, whether I'm at work, whether I'm here, whether I'm connecting with my children, because vulnerability is a strength. And a lot of times, Black men, we get told that you can only be tough, you can only be this, you can only be that. But like the one thing is like, you have to be a full person.
I'm so glad that like I've just literally like I totally choked up by that because I just told somebody, dude, your vulnerability is what helps to make you strong.
Yeah.
That was like to hear it being spoken. Not only you, I'm a woman, so people think, "Oh, it's okay to be emotional. You're just facing your fears," because that's what they think we think.
Right.
But to hear a man say, "Hey, you're strength and vulnerability,"
Yeah.
that like I appreciated that, like on the levels I can't even really like. Well, like thank you.
No problem. I mean, I think that's the way. And I learned too, like, well, you can't work in mental health if you don't believe in mental health. So, like, I had to do the
Mm.
work myself to then begin to talk to. I work with so many young African American males, and I've been in front of judges just asking for another chance. A lot of times, the young men in this city can make a bad choice. At the end of the day, they're bad choices, right? But in certain instances, the way the law works, our young African American males don't get a chance to work on their mental health.
Mm.
They feed us through that pipeline to prison. So, like for me, I'm like, you know what? I want to do this and try to make an impact and begin to advocate for those young men so they can have a shot to, oh wait, you mean to tell me this is why I'm feeling this way?
Mm.
There's always like some underlying cause to our behavior, how we move. So like, I'm just trying to normalize it that we can dig in a little bit and figure out why.
That I love to like I'm so excited because I don't feel crazy. Like cuz this is what I want for like all of y'all to be able to have an opportunity, but we'll talk about on that on the end,
Word
okay?
up, word up.
So with some of the people that you're dealing with, let's just say as a Black man, like what is it like is crying a bad thing? Not based on what you know, but from try to give me a generalization
Yeah.
because we just
I think
yeah.
stereotypically,
Yeah.
as a Black man, we were taught that crying was a sign of weakness. And I think it only until you kind of come into your own that you start to really tap into yourself and stop listening to all the white noise that you realize that crying is a part of the cycle. It's a part of the emotions. If you don't tap into your total emotions, how are you tapped into who you are as a total human being? So like I don't shy away from the tears. Sometimes I'm like, yo, where are the tears? Because we've been conditioned so much to be strong. I'm literally coming off the loss of a loved one right now. And somebody, my uncle Marvin, who was very, very instrumental in my life, extremely. My love for basketball, my love for music, my love to be fresh came from him, right? So I'm like, yo, you got to do him proud. But I'm like, where are the tears? So for me, I'm like, you know what? You mourn how you want to, and it don't even have to look a certain way.
Okay.
Sometimes you can feel those emotions, and you don't necessarily they don't come with the tears, but that doesn't mean we don't feel the emotions.
And see, I think that like immediately when I hear you say that, like I get like, yeah, like he a whole regular, like how is it such a how these lines of distinction expected to be drawn? Don't get me wrong. Let's be clear. I don't think that men and women are the same. I don't think that men and women are quote unquote equal. We're not even in the same boat. You know what I'm saying? Men are men, women are women.
Word.
That is my thought. Okay. And I am equal amongst other women. You are equal amongst other men. It's like comparing apples and oranges. You shouldn't do it. I'm not here to compete with you. I'm saying all of that to say, like, when I hear you talk about being able to be emotional, I'm like, how is it a weird thing that he cried? Did his leg is broke?
Yeah.
Or someone he cared about is gone. Why is that such a weird thing, even amongst other men?
Yeah, you know what I've learned through the years? It's not if you are around other mature men. And I think
Okay.
that's something we don't talk about a lot because I happen to be fortunate enough to have a lot of friends that are black men that are emotionally secure, and we check up on each other, and it's like, yo, hit me up if you need something. So it's like, but then you also have other people where you realize they haven't quite matured yet. They still believe they can only feel anger or happiness. So you have to know, like, we as black men are also not all alike. Some of us like have done the work, and others have not, and it manifests itself in anger and other behaviors. But yeah, like some of us, when you do the work, you can recognize other brothers who did the work, and there's that mutual respect amongst each other.
And if you've done the work and you know your guy has not, this your boy. You know what I'm saying? And you know he needs some maturing in some areas.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Do you encourage that? Do you say nothing and just kind of stand by and wait for him to be ready? Like, what does that look like?
For me, what I do, it depends on the person and how and what their grieving process is like.
Okay.
But the one thing I always say is, yo, I'm here. And it might annoy you, but I'm going to check up on you. So, like, I just leave it that way. And then sometimes I just let to other conversations. And then I can talk about, yo, well, for me, like, mental health and seeking mental health help, it's not a bad idea. So, like, once you kind of open that door, like, I've had conversations with my guys about that, and it's been fruitful conversations.
Really? So like I think about that because again, I every time I see the oh, I'm sorry, Tasha, I see you, hon. My bad. Let me just read these comments really quick. Tasha said the way the system is set is as if black men are animals and that need to be caged. A lot of people are dealing with the borderline personality disorder, gone misdiagnosed and untreated as they are out here on drugs to quell the mental defect. It don't work like that. Human emotion and understanding is key. And
Yeah.
then yeah, so then she also says the whole way we as black folks were taught to deal with emotion is jacked up. This is why our societies lack the necessary moral values to coincide and exist.
Yeah, I mean, the last time I looked at the stats, the if you were looking at it through the lens of race,
Okay.
um, white men seek therapy at a rate of about 45%. Black men seek therapy at about 20, a little bit over 25%, a little bit over 25%. So white men like 45, 46, black men about 25. That's a huge gap.
Yeah, that's a
And then
huge
in
gap.
addition to that, what folks don't realize, how much of the therapy that we as black men are seeking is court ordered. So if my introduction to mental health is court ordered, how open am I going to be to it?
I'm being forced in this space that I already have been taught was not a good place to be
And
in.
and
Okay.
and talk to, I mean, I know there's more research coming out, but I always go online or talk to your scholars, talk to your therapist. I mean, how much of that data is out there as far as what's court ordered mental health help, as far as, or just voluntary. And like, as far as like, well, I want to see a therapist like myself. If I wanted to see a black male psychiatrist, it's only about 4% of the entire field in the country of the United States of America are black male. 4%.
I've been looking and so the thought of that is I'm having some major troubles in the ones that are is locally are people I know. So
Mhm.
I can't go see them. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
the thought of that, let me see. Let me see. What did I miss? Shout out to Beatrice for joining the conversation. I appreciate that. Mario is going to be calling in now. Let me get this call on 1 second. I think this is it. Is it one or two? Let me turn it up.
Accept, press 1. To
Let me
send a
look at it.
voicemail, press 2.
Well, thank you for logging on to blowradio.com. You are tuned into Live with JustPatrice. Welcome to Monday. Guess who's on the phone?
Yeah, it's Mario. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you fine, love.
I'm getting
so
an
happy.
echo.
I'm so happy. Thank you so much for not. So on the phone right now is my dear friend Mario, the poet, who is also a very big voice for wellness, who has experienced some things himself as far personally, and through some of his writing, I've acknowledged that there has been some issues, not issues, but experiences that have left some very dark marks on him. But he's coming to this space, and I want to be able to give him an opportunity to share some of that. So, Mario, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
That's great. So let's just go right in. And do you have any personal experience with the topic, either depression, ideas of suicide, or just mental illness as a whole?
I mean, yeah. So to answer your question, I mean, I think everybody has emotional ups and downs.
Mm-hmm.
So I've dealt with that. But I've had depression, suicidal thoughts since my youth. I think for a lot of people, it's the way that our brains are set up. And like having an addictive personality. So some of it can be chemical. And it's just the way that we process pain. And then some of it can be nurturing, where we come from families where we weren't given the tools to deal with conflict and emotional pressure and loss and mourning and things like that. So when we find ourselves in situations where we're face to face with the stimulus, it's difficult. It's difficult to deal with.
That is so. Do you think, from your perspective, that there's a great difference between those type of encounters as a Black man than it is as a woman?
And to process other feelings other than, like y'all were discussing, anger and joy. I think where boys are taught to be tough, hard, and then you know your father. If you do know your father, often he wants you to be tough. He wants you to be hard. The expectation is for you to be stoic, as opposed to girls. If she stub her toe, it's okay to cry. If you stub your toe, toughen up. If that makes sense.
It does. What have you ever been in a position where you felt like you couldn't be open or honest about like what you were truly feeling?
For sure. I think because you feel limited. When often the people that we had a close relationship with emotionally are people who we're in romantic relationships with. And some of those relationships are contingent on you playing your role. So if your role is being a protector and a provider, you don't have an opportunity to be sad sometimes. You gotta go work. Ain't no time to be depressed. Ain't no time to mourn. You get them 3 days after your mama died and take your ass back to work.
Wow. Do you feel like it's more of more difficult to share those feelings and to be open with that with men or other women?
With other women? With men, I think brothers, the previous guest kind of went into it. I think brothers who are healed or trying to get whole, it's easier to have those conversations, but there's a limit to everything. And so you can be depressed clinically and you can't take that to your friend. You should probably take that to a practitioner. Because there's medical, not pharmaceutical methods that can help sometimes. But
Did I lose you? Sounds like it. You there? Sound like somebody lost him. I'm sure he'll call in. Okay. Um, try again, Mario.
To kind of
There you
piggyback
go.
on what he was
Yeah,
saying,
go
I
ahead.
think what he's saying is just like, like I don't want to anticipate what he's saying, but just thinking about it, like some things, like he was talking about, it's clinical, and other things are environmental. So there are things that we have to deal with, all of us, specifically just here in the Metro Milwaukee area, that are like it's more induced by our environment than it's anything else. So and being adamant about getting your mental health treated, and I think that's simple stuff like, well, what does my insurance look like? I always tell people, if you can, use that EAP, get some free sessions, like a test drive that therapist situation, see if it works.
So let me ask like this, because when I'm she said Tasha said he was on point, and then she said type of help most prison programs require alcohol and another drug and mental health, but usually those aggression programs that ain't the only type of mental health people need. Exactly. So I guess where I'm trying to find out more is instead of saying, and we're talking about we're older now, more mature, and not it's probably a little difficult to answer from the mind that you have now, because your mind state is, I mean, I'm on wellness shit. I'm on my people is on wellness stuff.
Right.
But
Yeah.
I want to talk about the dude who can't have a conversation with his boy because he's sitting in a room and he full of depression, but they drinking and turning up, and if he dare mention that, then he ribbed.
Call from.
You get what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Absolutely.
I hear you, Mario. Give me 1 second. But you are back live again. You know what I'm saying? Like, but he trying, he want to, but he can't. Or you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Or he should, and somebody else is ribbing him so hard that it's not even an option.
Yeah, I would say, like, so a lot of times, like when I was working directly with youth, and I was doing, for example, when I was doing community based therapy in the state of Georgia, one of the things that I would do is like, well, you know what, I know we like music. So I'm like, all right, you don't want to talk to me about how you're feeling? Why don't you play me a song? You know what I'm
Mm,
saying? Play me a song to that might capture how you feeling. People love their favorite music. That is a way to open the door. You know what
okay.
I'm saying? And then there are other people in the community doing different things. And like, I feel like it's starting to be more normalized. So like now is a good time for folks, no matter how young you are, you can get a good introduction to it, as opposed to this court ordered introduction to it.
Mm. Oh, Mario, we got you back, right?
yep.
Okay, great. I know you were making a statement. You got disconnected. Would you like to continue that statement?
No, I was just saying a lot of times we're in love relationships, and those are the places where we're allowed to be emotionally vulnerable. But with some things, it's difficult to communicate with your spouse or your significant other because you're afraid of judgment. Like, I could talk to you about being sad about my mama being gone, but when I talk about feelings of depression, deep depression, or clinical depression, even that many men are concerned that women look at it like a weakness that disqualifies them for being in a relationship.
Wow. I'm glad
Great
to hear you
point.
say it. I'm like, so this, I want to again just make a quick note that this is totally a safe space for conversation, not just to you all. I'm sure y'all gonna say what y'all need to say anyway. But I mean, for people who are listening, people who are watching, this is a safe space, and these types of conversations are being facilitated to give you an opportunity to be able to say, I shouldn't have to only be able to mourn my mom. I should be able to tell you, bro, I probably need to take that med, or I need to deal with that. Whatever. This is where we are, and these are the conversations that we're having. I just want to interject that again. So when I go forward, because I'm gonna get a little deeper, because I want to know. I know you guys can't answer for all men, but I mean, like, when does that start? Like, at what age did y'all start ribbing each other instead of saying it's okay? Because if you look at little kids, they see other little kids crying. They don't care whether it's a boy or girl or whatever, and they all, oh, it's okay, it's all right, trying to offer hugs or whatever. And then at some age, y'all be like, I mean, kind of like crying out, and then it goes there. When does that happen, Mario? Can you input first, and then you speak?
I think middle school, maybe, your parents start to put a value on tears. Don't be a crybaby. Why are you crying all the time? And so then you start to make this rationalization that it's not okay to cry, especially with boys. I think girls get it too, but I think with boys more so. You know what I'm saying? As you start to get a little bit older, get closer to your teenage years, and then you couple in misplaced ambition, people want to seem tough. You know, it's a masculine emotion to be stoic and to be hard. You know what I'm saying? So I think people start to put a value on masking your emotions, and you get rewarded for not being willing to cry. Whether it's in sports or whatever, you know, my knee hurts. Well, you know, fight through the pain. You know, you have something bad happen to you, or in your family. You know, we get traumas. You know, in the culture now, they have clinicians come in for kids, but when one of your classmates gets shot, that's the trauma, and ain't nobody talking about it. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so you got kids who are learning to swallow that trauma because, you know, the violence is affecting kids earlier and earlier, you dig?
You're right.
But, yeah, man, I think that a lot of it just comes from you start to make a value judgment on it, and you get rewarded for not being emotional. You know, you get more responsibilities because you can handle things. So you want to show people I can handle things, even when I can't.
And what is your take on that, Devontae?
I would say, you know, to Mario's point, I'll be honest. I think the outlet of music has always allowed me to get my emotions out, but that only goes so far. But like fully addressing mental health head on, that didn't happen until I was like early 30s. So you go through your whole life like, yo, tough it out, make it happen. If you feel these emotions, oh, that's weird. And then you get back angry and then you take it out on something else. So like literally, and I chalked that up to my career change. And then it was like, okay, you can't provide help if you don't really dig into what this truly means. So like it wasn't until my 30s that I literally even gave mental health a shot and actually thought about it, and then like went and saw my first therapist. So I mean, if we multiply that times every, let's just say, Black man in this city, how many of us could benefit from that earlier intervention? It's a lot of brilliant brothers that are behind bars right now that could be running corporations if they got the help earlier.
Okay. That's bananas. That like just to hear that like I'm the type of person like for years I was been like I really like when I see a man like fall out and like share all his emotions about a sports game, I used to get really irritated by that. Like I'm being 110% like honest. I was like, bro, for real?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But whatever, but how dare I tell you what make you excited? What thrills you? Yeah. Or what brings you joy? Who am I to judge that? You know what I mean? And I learned very early on to check myself or to be checked in that space about that. And even now, I'm like, I attribute it to some of that, not being able to be honest about how you're feeling and not being able to say, you know, look, I'm excited or I'm excited. That hurt my feelings. Yeah. Like that hurt my feelings. Like, are men not allowed to have their feelings hurt? I'm asking, gentlemen.
Well, going back to what you were saying about athletics, right? It's a safe space. It's the one place that you get a week or whatever, where you can be happy and sad as a group of men and share those emotions together. It's a bonding thing with men
Okay.
to cry over or to be frustrated over the game. We are not trained to do that in other places or even feel safe doing it in other places. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, is it well, your question was, say your question one more time.
I guess my question was asking you, since I have participated in making that a terrible. I'm chuckling because I'm like I did that and I tried to make amends for whatever the case may be. Like I didn't understand the sports thing, whatever the case may be. Like, is that the only place? I guess you get what I'm saying that y'all get that because
I would add the other
church,
place.
You get it at church sometimes. You know what I mean? But it's everything's about perception. So you dealing with how you view yourself and how other people view you. So a lot of men put a value, they want to be tough. They want to be hard no matter how they actually are feeling. And admitting that you are having trouble is a failure.
wow.
Admitting that you have an emotion is a failure.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
But you at some point you have to, and when you're saying in your 30s, you come to this realization, like, I'm not doing anything wrong because I'm having a hard time with it.
By the time
this is a big deal.
to like you're not allowed to, you're not offered the space to, and I don't want to say it takes y'all like it's on y'all, and I can't believe y'all didn't figure it out. But the space is not made until you're like almost 30.
And the only other place too, though, well, it kind of depends on your upbringing, though. But the other place I would say too, it's so odd, but like I come to realize it's a staple in our communities. Sometimes your barber is your first therapist. It's like if you talk to certain people, it's like some brothers will go to a barber for decades. Something about that relationship. They go there and they have this relationship. And like that's why when I do my community work, I try to partner with barbershops, salons, and places like that, because this is where we are comfortable being our vulnerable selves. So it's like
Black Man's Country Club.
Shout out to all of the barbers that have had many a conversation that have helped brothers through that. Because of that code, we'll never know.
And so here we're also thinking that men go to the same barber because that's the same dude you go to cut your hair because he get it right. You get what I'm saying? So it's typically it's both. It's both. You get what I'm saying? Like, oh, he just go to this dude because he been cutting his hair for years and he know how. He know my head, but he really know my head.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
And I didn't realize it until one time I took I have a soon to be 18-year-old son to the barber shop. And I was not buying into the hype and all of that, but then I know my barber through my cousin, and he knows my son, right? He didn't know my son, but he's cut my son's hair and talking about business. And everybody I know in my family has ran a business. And he's putting things in my son's head, like fruitful things. So now when you're having that conversation, it's like, oh, okay, I've heard that. Now this dude who's getting your line improper also is dropping that same knowledge. So barbers are extremely instrumental. Some even know it, some don't even know it. That's why I just want to shout them out.
That's hot. Like that's hot. Like that's a whole other layer though. How do y'all feel about? And I know this is whatever. I know this is like a question or whatever. But if you're having a conversation with someone, or as a man, and you're having a conversation with a woman specifically, and she's constantly reminding you of those moments of vulnerability. What really? It made you laugh?
Yeah.
Oh, please don't be hostile. Okay. What is it? What is it like having those conversations?
I would say no. Go ahead, Mario. Go ahead, bro.
No, go ahead.
I would say for me, it's you have to realize if your partner can be there for you emotionally. I gotta check in with my partner. What if I'm inflicting? Because if the love is real, they hurt when you hurt. So it's like, well, you got to make sure that that space is safe enough so both of y'all can walk out of that conversation okay. And the person that will double down and be there for you, like I feel like I'm in a space in my life where I feel like I can open up and be vulnerable and not be judged, but to find that person, because we weren't the only ones who were conditioned that black men look and act and appear a certain way.
Okay.
So you got to get you a partner that also, if you're healed, they also have to let go of some of those stereotypes as well.
Mario?
In plain language, all these heifers ain't the same. So it's like all men ain't the same. It depends on the broad. Let's be honest.
Yes.
If you messing with a lace front, snuffle up against eyelash type chick, hey man, good luck being emotionally whole. But depending on our level of sophistication, and communication skills, because everybody's having problems with this communication anymore. I think when you deal with a woman, she has to know the difference between surface emotions and something that's really bothering. And allowing you to have your tragedy. And a lot of times you'll deal with women who go, oh, you should be smarter than that. You can't rationalize away my feelings.
You're right.
You know better than that.
And this is exactly where I'm going. Come on.
And logic are two different things. I'm going through something. And what oftentimes you need is reassurance that, hey, I'm going to be here when you get this done. And sometimes I can't talk to you. You're not the one to talk to because it's going to affect our relationship. So what I have to do is seek out clinical help. But it's not a failure. And what a lot of men feel, and even your woman will feel like she a failure if you can't talk to her about something.
Wow.
But some stuff is bigger than bigger than a relationship, whether it's a friend relationship or an emotional relationship. Sometimes it's the baggage that we got that'll be harmful. Like he was saying, it's to be harmful to the relationship. So you need to seek the help of a clinician. But that doesn't make you a failure. Actually, it makes you stronger. We talked about that earlier. Actually, it's endearing that you're trying to be whole for the people that you love and care about.
So both you
a lot
gentlemen
of us carry around self-pity.
Go ahead. No, I'm sorry. You said a lot of people carry around self-pity. Go ahead.
Yeah, a lot of us carry around this self-pity. Like the problems that we've had poured onto us, whether it's, the families we come from, our criminal history, the bad things that by our perception that we've done, that we must be the worst person in the world. And it's difficult to articulate to other people our self-pity because they don't make a value judgment on you on the basis of they don't see the things you did as bad as you do. You feel what I'm saying?
Yes,
you
sir.
it's just a mistake, but you be broken because you can't connect with your inner child because you feel with all this self-pity that you won't talk about. Learning to be better than the worst decision you ever made. And then there's times where you're in a situation with somebody, you don't want to tell them about the worst thing you've done or the bad habits you have or the things that cripple you emotionally.
Is it the fear or the perceived judgment? Is that what you're saying?
Man.
Okay.
That part.
Okay.
Going into it with the idea, if I dump all this on you, you won't see me the same. Because I don't like me.
Oh.
And I'm sure if I convince you, if I get you to understand why I don't like me, now you won't like me. And then I'll be alone. And anything is better than alone. But even if it's a half a relationship.
So, but ideally in a situation like that is let me share all of this with you and don't your judgment of me change. Be available to either help me through it or just still be here. Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying sometimes you have to. Yeah, I'm saying that. I'm saying sometimes if you're in an interpersonal relationship with somebody, and I think what we're talking about here is more along the lines of a romantic relationship. If you're in a romantic relationship with somebody and they reach a point where they're not communicating anymore.
Okay.
You know, a lot of men shut down. That's a easy trick. Just get quiet. And and you have women who keep talking at you, like, talk to me, and we weren't given those tools. We don't have that language. We don't when we're frustrated or disappointed or in mourning, we get angry. Because that's the emotion we was taught to have.
Yeah.
We didn't choose it. That's how they raised us. Boys aren't given that language. So if he gets to a point where we shut down, oftentimes I suggest to women, maybe you should see a therapist. But that's a harder conversation to have with a man that's going through something too. Like, baby, maybe you should go talk to somebody.
Yeah, I know I've mentioned that to quite a few guys, and they'd be like, no. And I'm like,
Yeah.
okay. But you know what I'm saying? Because I'm not here to force anything down your throat that's gonna make you feel. And then if they come back and be like, well, why do you think that? You know what I mean?
Yeah. And there's just this stigma in general. If we think about it, the relationship that all Black people have with the industry of healthcare didn't start off on the best terms.
That's facts.
So these are things that, while we talk about the percentages of, in which people of color seek mental health help, there's also underlying reasons that have nothing to do with us. So we're kind of like oftentimes stuck between a rock and a hard place. Like, okay, I want to get the help, but like, this is, like you have to be very, very, the right situation has to happen and you have to want to do the work. You can try to go. If you're not ready, it's a pointless experience. But if you're ready, like kind of like what I did when I was looking for my current therapist, I was like, you know what? I'm not going to be this guarded person. I'm going to utilize the benefits through my current employer and then say, hey, you can search. This is what I want help on. It's a lot of like, you can do your Googles and find the type of clinician you want, specializing in anxiety, specializing in depression. And then you get in front of that therapist and you just have that conversation and you just see if that situation works. But it's okay. Just like sometimes we test drive a car and that wasn't it. Don't feel obligated that your first experience has to be the experience.
I appreciate the flexibility in that, and the again acknowledging that it's not a space of failure. If you're starting in this path and you're unable to do some things, to be able to seek an opportunity to be able to engage in those ways.
For sure.
I think it's very mature and very forth growing of both of you to be in a space where these are the spaces that this is where I'm at. I'm looking to do this or I'm looking to get here, but to be to be conscious of that is a thing. Is that, have you always thought that about yourselves, or have you always was it something that came like, I should probably be seeing the people? You know what I'm saying? Or when you were younger, you were like, maybe I could use somebody to bounce some of this stuff off, or was it, you know what I'm saying, like before it settled in, that the lessons that were being taught before it settled in? Because in my understanding of teenage years, whether it's male or female, so, we question it out just about all the things that we're told. You know what I'm saying? So before we believed it,
right?
You know what I'm saying? Was there the time that you felt like, so think about that. Like, was there a time that you felt like, man, it ain't me?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, and I feel like, also there are people that sometimes it might be like your teacher or something like that, or something like that, where you just have somebody. Everything is about relationship, and your mental health situation doesn't work with your clinician if that relationship isn't there. So I would say there's definitely been times, and I would say I credit, like, when I look all the way back, my grandma was probably my first therapist. I could come to her. She provided this safe space where I could be myself and be vulnerable and then be made whole, and I can go out into the world and do my thing. So I think that process that she subconsciously instilled in me exists in a therapeutic setting. So I think because of that, that's where I was able to draw that line and say, okay, this is not that bad of an idea.
Okay, I know I had asked the question and I didn't give a chance to engage Mario. I have to ask this because both of y'all mentioned this.
Okay.
And Mario, you can start here. Both of you have said to be made whole. Okay, like and use it in multiple references. Like that is the goal. Like that was a goal point. What is your interpretation of that? Like, what do you mean when you say that, Mario?
For me, when I talk about wholeness or being my best, I talk about being me or being my better me. When I talk about being my best me, it's about getting the things that I say that I want. So my definition of what's my best me or what's my whole me might not be what it is for you, but I know what the things in my life that I desire and the relationships that I cherish, and wanting to be the best me in those situations as often as I can, and to be present in those situations. You talk about wholeness, like for me, you talk about wholeness like being the best me at the right time for the right situation and being able to enjoy things without just feeling a desperation or sadness. That's the answer to your question.
Wow. I would add to that and say for me, I have to be spiritually and mentally and physically in tune and with all things that make me feel good. So like once I can tackle those things, and the one thing you'll learn, healing is not a linear process. So there will be some mishaps. Things can go fantastic and then it hits the fan, but you got to keep going. But for me, if you tackle those things, like if I'm spiritually in a good spot and I'm physically in a good spot, like taking care of myself and like that, from a mental standpoint, and I'm addressing my feelings and my emotions, that's where I feel I am my best self, and that's what I attribute to wholeness.
I appreciate it. Go ahead, Mario. I'm sorry.
I think it's like the COVID vaccine when it comes to depression. You gonna still get it, but you learn how to deal with it and learning coping mechanisms that can keep you from falling into the ICU or the doldrums, as they call them. I don't want to. I try to see my triggers when they're coming, and learn ways to avoid those thought processes. And but it's the way that I process life. I'm not going to get cured of depression. I don't. It sounds silly to me.
That's
like
right.
you don't get cured of depression. You learn how to cope with it.
That's right.
Because it's just the way that I process things. And I'm making myself responsible for things I have no. This is me personally. Making myself responsible for things I have no control over. You know what I mean? My friend died. I can't bring them back. But you get to this point where you don't want to get up because you can't do anything. And as a man, you thought you're supposed to fix problems.
That's right.
But what do you do with problems you can't fix? How do you resolve yourself when you're in situations where there's nothing you can do but deal with the feeling?
Yep.
Yeah, man, it hurts sometimes.
That's real.
Sometimes you want to cry and keep crying. It's okay to go and cry. Hey, and if you don't feel like you can cry in front of your girl, go cry by yourself. Get it out. And masturbation's not the answer.
That's
Don't take that. Come on, man, let's go do something.
Okay.
And
So
don't
instead of
yourself,
doing so how often is that the conversation as opposed to the ribbon? Or you know what I'm saying? Because
I
if
don't think
that's
we
what they
always
going through, like I mean the ribbon, haha, for a joke. You know what I'm saying? But when
Right.
like, do you wait while he broke and do you rib the shit out of him? You know what I'm saying? I'm
Yeah,
just asking
man.
because
It's
I
just how
don't
men
know.
communicate.
I'm not a
It's just how
guy.
men communicate.
Is that how y'all were taught to communicate? Is that okay?
It depends on your circle.
I'm asking.
Yeah, some circles, you know, if I go there, this is what it's gonna be. Other circles, you like, okay, this is where I can off. But you know what though? If the people are really down for you, you can let them like, this ain't the day, fam. This ain't one of those. And if they respect you, they respect you. Like
Yeah.
it isn't so like if people really rock with you, they're like, okay, what's going on? Like I think a lot of times because I think guys don't talk about it, we have a lot
Mhm.
of critical conversations amongst ourselves that like, yo, what's going on? But it just never gets publicized, unfortunately, until like one of us are gone or something like that. Like I mean, you can think about I think about people I just recently lost, all the different conversations we had behind the scenes. So it's like,
Right.
I don't know if that's universal, but that's kind of what I've experienced.
I think that when we press into these moments, you find people that can be comfort, and people who are working on themselves and they can help as much as they can. I just want to be sure to say to any man that might listen to this podcast or any woman living a man that's going through depression, just remember that he's not a failure because he's having a hard time with his emotion. And don't make him feel like a failure. Or don't feel like a failure if you're going through it because it's a human thing. And some of us, by no fault of our own, none you did wrong, just process emotions differently.
So
Some of
how
us,
do we like what do we say? What do we do? You know what I'm saying? Like to not make you feel like a failure. I know everybody is different, but what are some no's or how do we avoid doing that? You know what I'm saying? What is the give us something to at least make a
I have,
start
I
taking
have, I have
habits.
anger management. I have anger management issues. I'm gonna speak specifically.
That's fine.
Patrice has taken me aside and said, Mario, I know you got anger management issues, but what you're doing and talk to me like a man.
Mm.
And I received it. And sometimes sometimes they might receive it and you don't get the response that you was expecting for 5 years or confirmation that they received it. But you just have to create that safe space. And it can't be in front of everybody. And it can't be when y'all arguing. And it's gotta be sacred. Well, we use the term safe space. You gotta create a safe space, you know what I mean, and talk about it. You know what I mean?
That's real.
That's what I'm giving y'all.
That's
Like
real.
for real, like we need this information.
Yeah,
Like
so like for
this.
example,
So thank you. Please continue.
to add to that, one of the things that I would do is if I can get to it before I'm experiencing a certain level of anxiety, I have already explained this is what I'm like when I get anxious. This is what I'm like if I'm experiencing depression. Because in that moment, I may not be able to articulate it. So I'm going to tell you now when I can fully express myself. So then when you see it, this is what I need from you as far as help. And this could be whether it's your significant other, whether it's your sister, family, don't matter who it is. The people that are core in your life, they all need to know how to help you because that's the whole thing. It's like if you think you're going to shoulder this by yourself, you're kidding yourself. But like if you explain to your loved ones, this is what it looks like when my anxiety or depression is manifesting itself, then you've given them the tools to work with you. So then it's like, I might need space or I might want to vent, but I don't want you to prescribe a solution. You talk to your loved ones about that. So then in the moment, you're not responsible. And this is what happens a lot of times. And this is where guys go back to anger. I can't be depressed and anxious and explain and define my anxiety and depression. And often
that's
and
real.
oftentimes, if you don't get the right people in your life, you're like, yo, have you ever? I've even gone as far as sending articles in evidence-based research to back what I might explain in my own way, just so like, yo, no, this is real. This is real. This is not me wanting to dodge this or dodge that. Like, I mean, if my happiness is real, so is this.
So I'm laughing, and I have to bring this to point because you made it very like it was so plain. Like, first of all, I can't be dealing with all of this stuff, trying to sort that out, and then tell you how I'm dealing with all of this.
And then I'm mad because I
stuff.
forgot to write the
And
manual
come
on how to deal with me.
Come on. You know what I'm saying? Like,
You know what I'm
come
saying?
on. So, like the logic in that on how we engage, and this is kind of like for me, right on the borderline of what I say a lot when it comes to people and how we're managing strengthen our communication relationships. Don't assume everyone is like you
Word.
first. You know what I'm saying? If you're going
Word.
to be intimate and get to know someone, then fucking get to know them.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying? Not what you think they should be doing, not how you feel you would respond if the situation was like this, because you know. So just none of that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I want to know the same way that we're learning what type of coffee you like, or what's your favorite soda, or what kind of food combination, what seasonings you can have.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? It should be just as important to know, as important to learn to say, let me watch how his shoulders is sitting. You know what I'm saying? Or what his brow look like.
Yeah.
And when he's unable to say, I don't feel like it, don't mean I don't want to talk to you. It mean I don't want to talk to anybody, and I need a second.
Yeah.
And it's not personal. You know what I mean? That I'm experiencing something personal, but it's not a personal reflection of you. And I don't think
So
often that men and women get that women, excuse me, accept that clarity
Mm.
when it's offered, because there's often the pick for it's gotta be more.
Ah, interesting.
Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Yeah.
So, I give you an example, which I'm talking about, and it's trivial, but I'm going to say it. I went to the movies with a friend, first time in the movie together, going to see a scary movie. And I think it's an allegory to life, though. And what I'm talking about, like I told her, I said, we're going to this movie. I don't know what it's going to be like. If it's scary, don't get to jumping on me, because half I'm scared too. So it's not helping. And I don't want you to feel like I don't love you, but I'm scared. Take it, don't be, oh my God, because you're going to freak us both out. But that happens in a relationship. And I think it is an allegory to what we was talking about, is I'm going through something and you pressuring me while I'm going through something can make it difficult to get out of something, because I feel bad because I don't know how to articulate it to you. And it's knowing when you got to take your hands off, there's not no words that you can give because you're too personally connected to the situation and emotionally connected to the situation. So where, hey man, this might be an avenue to say, hey baby, I know you can't talk to me about what you're going through, but you're not being yourself. And I feel like there's something wrong. We've talked our way as far as we can get. Maybe it's time for you to see somebody, even if it's the pastor, even if it's facilitating the fellas' night for your husband or whatever, or your mate, to have his boys come over and tell them, hey man, y'all need to talk to him. Even if he's not open to seeing a clinician, there are ways to get him talking about what's going on.
That's right. That's right.
And I feel like you have to keep that secret of his pain. You know, I'm like, go tell his mama. I don't hate to say it, but somebody gotta tell his mama. You know?
I appreciate that. Like this is insight that a lot of people, women, like either ignore or we don't get privy to. Like seriously, you know, it's always the assumption, but it's always the assumption from our perspective.
Gotcha.
And that's not accurate. You know what I mean? Like some women, a lot of women will miss what you're saying. but there are some gems that you are dropping,
Mhm.
and making it available in this way makes it make sense. Like I can be here all day and be like, and then Mario said, don't always, and then he also suggested that a such and such, and it'll sound completely different
Mhm.
coming from me than it is come from him, and I could have repeated him verbatim.
Yeah, like the most important thing that jumped out when he said, "I understand the difference between logic and emotion,
Mm-hmm.
but when I'm feeling my
Mhm.
emotion, my logic ain't there." Like when he said that, I'm like, "That's it."
Yeah.
No matter how brilliant you are, how smart you are, when your emotions have overcome you, then your decision making. That's why you gotta have somebody step in.
Which is male or female, ladies,
Hmm.
people. You understand what I'm saying? Because you couldn't be when your emotions all the time, ladies. Men tell us all the time, look, she irrational. That's the statement right there. If you lost so hard in your emotions, think about all the things that you've done because you was feeling some kind of way, and then you
Mhm.
just went into action. You understand what I'm saying, sis? Like you when you go right in and you just went to action because you was feeling some kind of way. Imagine not being taught how to deal even partially with any of those feelings and just sorting it out your own way all that time. And then somebody, while you're dealing with that, saying, "Can we go to eat? What are you going to do? What about your outfit? Where you go? Did you take it? Did you take the garbage? Did you turn the light on? Is the bills paid? The rent paid? What you gonna do? Did you go to job to work today? What you do at work today? How come you didn't call me? You didn't text me today? What did you feed the kids?"
Exactly.
I can keep going.
Yeah.
Get off, bam.
Yeah.
Cut it out for
But,
like 5 minutes. It goes down.
but I've seen relationships ruined by depression because he stopped doing doing the things that he was doing, like you alluded to it, taking out the trash, all of these, not wanting to engage socially, and so that it becomes complaint. You don't want to come out with me and my family. You don't want to go nowhere. You don't want to do
But
nothing.
that's a
You
lack
don't
of
want. You don't even get up and take
attentiveness.
out the trash.
That's where I'm going with the lack of attentiveness. The same way you
Mm-hmm.
learned the type of clothes that he likes, the same way you learn what type of seasoning to put in his food.
Hmm.
Watch how he responds to certain situations because again, men are people. They
Yeah.
have emotions, a myriad of them, and majority of them they don't really know how to move through. So you
Yeah.
Because we
gotta
weren't given the
watch.
tools.
Go ahead. I'm sorry, Mario.
Because we weren't given the tools. We weren't
Right, because
given
you
that
weren't
language.
given the tools. You get what I'm saying? And we mentioned that, and I love that you use that term too. We were not given the tools, so I kind of made up my own.
Yeah.
I figured out how to, and sometimes it ain't right. Like you know what it's like with girl when you try to put the little shelf together and you have parts left over. Don't do that. Don't do that. They are
Man, that's
there
deep.
for a reason.
That's
You
right.
know, I'm
That's
just
right.
keeping it 100. I'm just being
Yeah.
100. You trying it, but
Right.
you were like, but then he come back in the room, be like, well,
Yeah.
it's a lot of pieces. I didn't need those. Oh, but you did
Those are
somewhere.
extra.
Yeah.
Let's find that there's no extra.
And
There's no extra.
and emotions are the weight, are the pressure. You done built this shelf and it ain't put together right, and
Come
these
on.
emotions hit it, this trauma hit it,
Yeah.
and it fall apart.
Come
Yep.
on now. Come on now. It's like, what in the world? What you doing?
That's so accurate.
What's happening?
Man,
Man, he show up like, ma'am, baby looks good. That looks so good. Wait a minute. Wait. And look,
Yeah.
I see you got the TV and you got the TV on the shelf. Wait. How about we remove the
yeah.
TV immediately? Right now, you got like all these extra screws and these bolts here, but
Exactly.
I didn't need them. Okay, it is. So let's take the TV off. Let's move some of the weight though. You get
Mm-hmm.
catch the reference. Let's move some of the weight. You know what I'm
Hmm.
saying? So we can figure out where these pieces go because you need them. You were created with them. You need them.
That's right.
You get what I'm saying? Let's sort that out for one another. And I referenced the relationship because that's kind of where the conversation was moving. And that we as women, like if we're talking about where does this start? Now we're not again not with the fixes, but not these are the answers. But let's so a little more place where to look. Where did this come from between you and I? Why do I have such great expectations of you? You get what I'm saying? Without any grace.
Yeah.
Like, that's so crazy to me. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, we, us, me, my women, you know what I'm saying, show up with all these grandiose expectations of men with no grace. Like, it's none. It's either you do this or you ain't shit.
Word.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Either you do this or you a busted ass figure of a man. And the list of things that could go on with this idea of what was supposed to, like, how fair is that?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And I'm saying that because, again, we're in a space of acknowledging what is and should not be. Like, that ain't cool. It's not cool. And then to expect them to what? Magically show up constantly. And I saw the conversation between and Mario, you can help me if or speak as you as well. It was James Baldwin and who was he speaking to?
Oh.
What is the sister's name? Come on, not Angela, but he was talking to another activist, another female activist. Okay, and she was like, well, why can't you lie to me? Why won't you pretend for me?
I think that was Miss Angela Davis.
Was it?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm trying to remember.
Davis, yeah.
And she was like, you pretend for everybody else, then pretend for me
I
too.
know exactly the clip you're talking about.
Have you seen that, Mario?
Yeah,
Oh, Nikki Giovanni. Thank you, Tasha.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. It's Nikki Giovanni. Thank you so much. In that, like, I was so conflicted in that moment. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, I was so like, I feel that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like be well for me or pretend to be well for me so we can be good in this space, this moment. But I also was like, don't treat me bad.
Yeah.
But don't pretend for me. Let's genuinely get to the root of what's going on.
Yeah.
Be all of you, be here, be broken. You get what I'm saying? And let me tend to the shatters. You get what I'm saying? It's kind of where my mind is. And so then it's time to put you back together again. You get what I'm saying? And we got you on deck and all your pieces is in order. Then we can move forward. And you get what I mean? Like, that's kind of.
And I would even preface too, like, I don't want the perceptions to be made that women have to, quote unquote, put us together. Because I think there's also that narrative where, you know, some people have experienced different relationships. Like, I tried that. So, like, I think I always look at things from, like, my life began to change when I began to accept all of the accountability, not just the good stuff. So I think too, like, as long as I'm doing the work and I got somebody with me that's going to do the work, like that's the piece where the value is. If we're both going to do this work, we're both going to dig in, and that's where things help. I mean, I was talking to my therapist and she was like, well, you know, the love languages thing, right? It's so cliche, but take it often. My therapist, why don't you just for the love, if you know what you need to do for you to be your best and for your significant other to be their best, it's like, no, this is just what we do. We hold each other down.
Indeed, but down and accountable.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Down,
accountable.
and
it has to be in the equation.
Down
Accountability has to be there for sure.
Hey man, the pressure will show you what your relationship is about.
1,000,000%. 1,000,000%.
Who you with?
Yes.
Because women are allowed to have emotional breakdowns in ways that men aren't always.
I agree with that, and I want to know. I want to know why. Like,
I think some has to do with gender roles and, like you said, expectation. And you know, men are supposed to have the answers. We're the providers, and oftentimes I think women come into it looking at us like, you know, we're supposed to be the one to fix things. And So you're supposed to be the strength. I'm supposed to be the vulnerability. And it can put a strain on a relationship when a woman feel like she being the man in a relationship. But it doesn't do anything but perpetuate itself. Because if he understands that too. So he's not gonna always be able to talk to you. And I think a lot of times, I think a big problem comes either from him not being willing to accept his emotional, genuine self, or not being able to accept that he's not able to handle it. And taking your hands
Could you
off
repeat
the
that? You said
wheel
not being able to accept that he's not able to handle it?
Yeah, to handle the situation.
Okay.
I'm not able to alone do this. And I got to be strong enough to push through where I don't feel strong enough. And, you know, we don't talk about it very often when we have these conversations. Most people just pour alcohol on and weed and pills or whatever they drug of choice is.
Okay. Someone had mentioned that earlier in the show, but I'm glad it came up again. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, a lot of us, that's, you know, that when we get depressed, and that's all people, I ain't just talking about black people, all people, they just pour alcohol and drugs on. And a lot of these negative outcomes you see come from people who are in different states of depression and chemical dependency, and then they shooting at each other at Walmart because somebody skipped them in line.
So let me ask you this. So depression, the word depression, just let's just address that word or whatever. Like we've mentioned it, we've all used it in this conversation. Like why do you feel like it's legitimately a thing? Well, how do you know it is a thing and not something somebody just made up because they don't quote unquote they don't feel like it, they don't quote unquote they don't want to?
I think depression for me is real because it's something that doesn't move. You know, I've been sad before, but this kind of sadness is different. It's bottomless. It's hopeless. It doesn't. It's not a couple of days I'm sad and then I feel like getting up and walking out the house. And it's something I can't rationalize well. It's so wrapped up and trapped in my self-worth and identity and all of these broken thought processes that it becomes all-consuming. You know, you could be in a depressive state and it drives to the point to be suicidal, just to stop the pain of feeling worthless and unloved and alone, and it eats into itself because it forces you to be solid. It makes you be solitary, which becomes self-perpetuating.
Yep.
So that's my answer.
Yeah, and I would say depression is just as foolproof as total happiness. We've seen it enough. We've seen pure joy, pure happiness. We've seen, and depression isn't always linked to a diagnosis. You can be depressed and not be clinically depressed. Like, so it's just a part of the human spectrum of emotions. We all come with the same toolkits as far as what we aren't able to feel, and our environments kind of tweak that a little bit. They mess with that algorithm based on what our environment is, but it's just as foolproof as happiness. It's just as foolproof as anger, and it's just like it's a thing. And I think we in our community are just not starting to, but I feel like more and more awareness when you can celebrities are pushing the narrative and think that where it's becoming more normalized that we can talk about it.
Do you feel like okay, so Mario, you did mention, and this is a great segue right into the idea of suicide. When you become so taken by these emotions that people keep telling you don't really exist, and you're not so wrapped into where you are that you literally opt out of life.
Yeah.
And you decide that this is the only choice. Like, how do we go from emotionally irrational to rationalizing death and making the choice? You understand what I'm saying? Like
Okay.
the like how like is that a thing? Is people making that up? And you know what I mean? Like, cause that's what they're saying. Like, it's man, come on, quit tripping. You don't really mean that. It's always a teeth suck and an eye roll and a downplay.
And to your point, I think so. My training has taught me to you take it all serious all the time because of you don't want to, like you said, blow it off. And it's one of those things where people arrive to that point. Like I have worked with youth. I can think of a specific time where I was working with a young man who was dealing with heavy suicidal ideations. And it's like, I'm leaning on the experts. I'm leaning on the psychiatrists and the psychologists. What can you equip me with so we can keep this young man safe, this young black man safe? So everybody doesn't have that ability to be able to quick, speed dial this clinical expert, speed dial this clinical expert to get the right things to say. And there's the National Suicide Hotline, and now they're kind of calling it the warm line, but like to I don't even think that everybody arrives to that point under the same circumstances. I think just like anything else, the road there depends on every unique situation. And it's just what I say is if we're tapped into our loved one, we have a greater opportunity to see it and to try to help steer clear. That's kind of like my first initial take on it.
I'm saying this.
Mm-hmm.
When you are in a space of making the decision,
Yeah.
somebody think about it. I don't know, damn 800 number.
That's right.
I'm
I feel you. I feel you.
um
Right there.
you don't think that dial the number. You know what I'm saying? Like that's not the call that you're trying to make.
100%.
You get what I'm saying? Like let me just go ahead and keep the 800 suicide number on deck. You know what I'm saying? Because I might feel like today I'm done with this shit.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
You don't think to necessarily pick up the phone and call that friend or whomever might whoever talked you out of it last time, whoever showed up in time to make the phone call or to tap in or
Take your time.
or to be available randomly, because you don't sit there and you don't plan.
That's right.
Oh, today today I'm gonna go through this bout of emptiness. Today, by the end of the day, I know that we having such a good time now, but later on I'm gonna go home and I'm gonna go wallow in this darkness and see what happened.
Right.
It don't go like that. You understand what I'm saying? Like, it just show up. So for not for the people that is just showing up on, but for those of us in those moments when we are our lucid selves, what are we looking for? What signs are given? You get what I'm saying? From the withdrawn black man, or from the quiet man who was all of a sudden kicking it, or from the kicking it man who's all of a sudden quiet. What are we looking for? How do you change?
Yeah.
What happens? Like, how do we tap into that? Because from birth we taught y'all. And I be feeling, I don't mean to be empathetic in this space, but it's like I'm overwhelmed all of a sudden, and I feel responsible. You understand?
I appreciate that. Yeah.
for teaching y'all, because as a mother, as a woman, like we taught y'all to not say. We talk generation after generation after generation. So somebody taught us, but we taught y'all, even when we had a moment of lucidness, to do the exact same thing we've always been doing, and it's killing us.
Yeah.
As parents,
Yeah.
Mario and Demonte, but as parents, how are you changing that narrative in your children's lives?
Man, we've always tried to make sure our children were empathetic, um, and tried to prepare my sons with emotional language. My kids get hugs from me all the time, and we talk about how we feel, and it's okay to be upset. And I try not to be a big boy for my son. If he's sad, I take him aside and we have a conversation, and validate his feelings and explain to him why he still needs to do what he's supposed to do. Best I got. It's a
Yeah.
heavy conversation
Yeah. I would.
about the suicide thing. Yeah, I feel you though.
Yeah, I would add to that. Like I normalized it very early with my children, especially like my daughters, and being even began to go down my own journey with mental health with them. So if they were ever feeling a certain way, if I didn't see something as a parent, I at least normalized that there was another outlet. And I think because I like the answer to your question, the most frightening thing is there's no perfect way to know. And that's why like folks try to preach prevention and tapping in, because unfortunately, like like working with people and experiencing different things, it's like there is no perfect answer. So like I try to normalize it, put it out there, and let them know, hey, it's okay to talk about this. And I feel like in doing that, I feel like I broke that cycle, that at least the people who I can have an impact on their lives, they realize these stigmas don't come with being vulnerable, being emotional. That whether I'm talking to my nephews or any young man I happen to work with throughout my career, to normalize that. And that prevention is the best thing we can try to do, and that's not foolproof.
Right. And it just seems like, to me, like no matter, nothing is 100% foolproof. I understand that. I'm
Right.
not disillusioned on that. But in a matter of moments, a matter of just like, and it happens all the time. You get what I'm saying? And so a good friend of mine passed away, and later I find out that it was suicide,
Mm.
which still, it's like hurt, like in ways you can't even explain really, because then you question whether or not you were available. Did you could you have, whatever the case may be, what is the what? And then there's people who love so hard that they kill someone else and themselves. Do you
Yeah.
like, could you imagine the amount of love and the right now repair that need to happen in a space that I need to kill you and me,
Yeah.
and
That is.
then to be a child of a person who is like loved universally, like
Yeah.
around the world, and still be missing something so much
Yeah.
that you need to take your life, or to be the person who is adorned in places you just saw around the globe.
Yep.
And even still, that's just a jump from a building in Manhattan.
Yeah.
Do you understand how Okay,
But
let's
you're
just.
making it. It's not a rational decision.
That's what I'm saying. It's not. It's irrational. So check me out. Check me out.
Mm-hmm.
So when I decide to take pills,
Mm-hmm.
let's look at this really quickly.
Okay.
If I decide I'm gonna take these pills, and whether even in the moment I'm like, oh my God, I'm just gonna take them all, and you take them all down, you swallow them, you drink them with something. Okay, there is still a moment that you could, not necessarily you do, make a phone call. Hey, guess what? I just took these pills. Somebody come get me some, help me pump my system, do whatever.
Right.
There's an effort that could happen in that moment. Okay.
Yes.
If I shoot myself, my nigga, listen. And it's the moment before, not the moment after, because you gotta shoot. You gotta think to yourself, I gotta do this and not miss.
Yep.
I gotta do this because it's not gonna just jeopardize the rest of my life. What if I miss? So I'm shoot, and just imagine the 1, 2, 3 pull, and I'm done because you gotta get there.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's that anxiety, that drive that got you right there at that moment. And once it's done, it's done. So what if I miss? What if I do it and I don't succeed this part because I didn't do it? Now I got a whole other type of life I gotta live that may not include recovery. But when you step to the edge of a building and because you ain't no way up, ain't no catch, ain't no net, ain't no nothing, and whatever thought process that could possibly change your mind in that matter of seconds, it's none.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
These are just 3 or 4 different ways that it's happened in the last couple of months.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? It's happening. And the rationale, and I'm bringing that up so we understand that, listen, it's no logic in that space.
At all. At all.
It's none. Some y'all, if it didn't matter, none of you would read the Tylenol bottle. You just grab the pills and take them. Do you understand? This is Tylenol, but you would take a second. Nobody said, how many of these I'm supposed to take? What's the milligram? That's logic.
Yep.
I'm only going to take these many because it makes sense to have this happen. You don't think you just grab the pills and pop down and go. All of the pills? All of them? When you pull a gun, there's no moment to backtrack, fam.
Nope.
When you stand, you jump from the building. The decision is final. But there's no logic in that. I need you to understand naturally. That's why you can't harm yourself without overriding a
Suicide, like oftentimes, the last I looked at the data is like men are more likely to succeed because they choose more permanent methods.
right.
And that's the only reason why I lean towards prevention, because there's no other scientific proven way aside from clinical intervention to combat this. And like, the people that we recently lost that are no longer here, we don't even know, like, they could have been seeking all the help that we're talking about. And like you said, there's that override of when that emotion overcomes that logic. And I would hope to think that, like, having conversations right like this right now change the perception of people, and it can start to change, like, wait, our community can talk about this stuff out loud on air. And I think that in of itself is the inroads for us to begin to, like, really address some of this stuff. Because like you said, the last month plus has been a lot.
I just wish that there was um more like we talk as a not apart from the conversation, but affecting the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
As women, we've waited so long for y'all to show up collectively, and we talking about over the generations. I mean, there's some men that on deck. We're not talking about you, bro.
Understood.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yep.
But we haven't collectively as as women, as a gender, collectively as a culture community,
Okay.
as a society period, always have these expectations, but there's no grace. You understand where I'm going with that? Like that's the part that's getting me, because it's,
and then which no grace equals more pressure.
more pressure. Like how do I expect you? Like I'm dogging you because you're not Superman. Then my expectations of you being Superman, it's just so unrealistic that there's no support, there's no safe space, there's just this whip and an expectation of output. How can
and the police will shoot you in a traffic stop? It's shit crazy out here.
One more time, bro.
I'm sorry. I said, and the police will shoot you in a traffic stop.
Come on.
Shit is crazy out here.
Mel, you know I don't know how to pronounce your name properly, but I know it's Kweku, and we'll start there, okay? Truth is, this has not been an upcharge. Truth is, it has not been an upcharge in suicide. The number is always high, more than murders, but the news will cover a homicide, but not a suicide, unless it's a public forum or celebrity. Exactly.
Facts. Absolutely facts.
Exactly.
Yep.
Exactly. And that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So the fact that we are just, it's happening and we're not talking about it.
Mm-hmm.
I want to talk about it. I want to talk about it so we can normalize the conversations and not quote unquote demonize the thought of, because now I'm being judged because I felt like I needed to, or I was feeling some kind of way,
Mm-hmm.
but making an opportunity for there to be an alternative.
Yes.
Please be I'm very mindful of my language. I don't even want to demonize the fact that you're doing it or that you wanted to do it,
Mm-hmm.
because then I'm demonizing the fact that you had the thought of,
Yep.
and you're automatically embedding the idea that if you even think of it, then it's close to. I don't want
the
that
stigma right there.
And I don't want to create that anymore. Yep. I want to create an opportunity for you to see the alternative, for there to be let's normalize going to the therapist. Let's normalize getting a massage if that's what you need. Let's normalize taking a break. Let's normalize learning these parts of our partner, because we learn all the stuff that don't fucking matter, in my opinion. Word. Those are cute little details, you know what I'm saying, to make the cake frilly. Word. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We talking about this whole snack, this meal. Can we get to the root of it? What is the meat made of? What is the base of the meat? Like, what is and we are all men specifically made in the same breath. You have emotions, you have ideas, you are taught some things, you weren't given a lot of tools to deal with things that you were just naturally born with.
Yeah.
How do you deal with this chemical imbalance? You don't know. Nobody told me. I'm gonna try to jump off this tree. You get what I'm saying? Maybe that'll fix it.
Yeah.
That don't even, you know what I'm saying? The logic of that, I know that sounded irrational, but that's what happens. We're not talking irrationality. We're talking about emotions. And all emotions that's the difference. Is you being emotional or are you being logical? That's why they're the opposite.
Yeah.
So let's not have those expectations of our men to just show up prepared without the grace of error. Do you understand?
Mm-hmm.
Because I want you to show up prepared. But the grace of error means he might not get it right the first time. You know what I'm saying? Is there room for judgment? It's not a failure. How many times people take the SAT test more than one time? all type of tests you take over and over and over again. And don't get me wrong, once you learn, I love that you mentioned Demonte, that the love language conversation.
Mm-hmm.
You have to take it more than one time. You don't take it and just expect that I'm always going to be the same person. You have to keep taking it.
Yeah.
Because people change.
Especially you think about, I mean, we are still in this weird space right now with the pandemic. And it's like, to say that it hasn't affected us, in addition to if you were already working through something. So, like, I think the key word where I'm drawing from what you keep saying is that grace is very, very much needed. And it's something that should be given universally, between each other for sure.
Shout out one more time to Mario the poet. Are you still there? Did you hang up already, Rio?
No, I was just wanting to say thank you to everybody for letting me participate in this conversation. I had to get my son off the bus, but I appreciate it, and I hope I was some help.
You've been amazing, Mario, and I appreciate your vulnerability and your transparency through this conversation and your openness just to like really go in. So this is greatly appreciated, and I hope to talk with you again soon.
All right, y'all have a good one.
All right,
Peace.
love. Yeah. So that, I guess that's kind of where I'm going with all of that, being available to have these types of conversations. Like I get extra emotional because it's not just because it hit my home and people or that I'm aware of have this experience, but I know what it's like to feel like you in this sunken space on yourself.
Word.
I know what it looked like to be down in there and you be like, oh damn. How'd I get back?
And I said I wasn't gonna be back.
I was gonna never be back. I just gonna never be here again, and I'm here. You know what I'm saying? And how do I get out? And I don't want to put nobody down here too. So I'm not gonna tell nobody. I'm just gonna figure it out. Okay, I'm a front. I'm gonna get out of here. And I don't believe in none of that. I am never the fake it till you make it. When it comes to these types of things.
Yep.
Now, there's fake it till you make it. Don't mean pretend that you are emotionally all right when you are not. If you are hurting. How do we encourage men to tell someone I'm hurting? What do we say, bro? It's cool to tell somebody. How do we make a safe space?
I think we just have to pay attention to who we are around. Like, I mean, it's just so funny. Like, I was just having a conversation with a few of my friends that I call brothers, and we are all men, and we're sitting down just having these exact conversations and just saying like, yo, what do you do? And then we're sharing our coping mechanisms. Well, if I hit this point, I've had a boss that one time I was having the roughest day, and I was like, I need to go to the gym now. I can finish my duties, but I've got to go now. Having people in your life, whether it's your supervisor or a loved one or family, that see like, okay, and then they can help you through that. Like, okay, go ahead, do that workout. Go ahead, walk. Take that sun in, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's how we got to begin to have it. And also have people in your life that are for you. When you got people in your life that are for you, this will be less and less difficult. But if we're still trying to, like you said, fake it till we make it, then we're trying to tap in with people that really aren't invested in us. So it's really getting comfortable in who you are, getting comfortable with what you need to work on, but also surrounding yourself and changing your environment if somebody is not going to pour into you in a positive way.
Tasha said, as women, we need to reacclimate ourselves because though new stuff is nice, some age-old practices within traditionalism maintain strong home units. I say that all the time. Like some pieces of foundation, bro, you don't throw the whole crib away.
That's right.
What,
that's right.
Listen, what are you doing? What are you saying?
You need to renovate.
You make some adjustments. What is this foundation working? Then we use the foundation that work. We use the pieces that work.
That's right.
And you move all the things that don't work. That's how you don't just wipe the whole house down and start over. You only remove the things that need to be replaced.
For sure.
That's how I feel about us and our morality, our character traits, how we pass down from generation to generation. This is what we need to do. Keep the things that were working.
Yeah.
Okay. Don't beat the fuck out of your kids. I'm with that. But provide effective discipline.
Yep.
They didn't say don't discipline your children. Provide effective discipline that doesn't require physical harm.
That's right.
What, you understand what I'm saying?
That's
There
right.
are other ways to get it done. We don't just remove correction. How do you learn? If everything you do, and somebody says, "Oh yeah, that's fine, that's fine," but is it right? Oh no, doesn't matter, doesn't matter. It's okay, it's okay. No, 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 no. But you out here in a whole hot pink outfit, and the theme is orange and purple. Fam, you don't even match. This is getaway.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? Let's offer correction. Let's offer discipline, guidance, structure. Those things mattered. So you don't just be all over the place. Guidance, structure, discipline come into place to help you actively, productively be a part of society. Because there are rules, restrictions, and structure in the society. So you need to learn how to adapt.
Word.
If you don't teach your children anything, they're going to be so lost trying to engage in life that you're going to complicate their journey. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and that's the biggest thing. We can't send our young loved ones out into the world without without them experiencing accountability, because then that can exacerbate a lot of other things. So it is definitely incumbent upon us to, yes, this, when you make this choice, these are some of the results of that choice. So let's talk about this and think about, like, do we want to continue to make this choice? That again, that also, and it's prevention. It's like the more and more folks like you continue to use your platform to talk about important things like this, the more it's going to get through households. And before you know it, it's like we as a community, like, we mean it when we ask, how are you doing?
Come on now.
So I appreciate you for just creating such a platform where we can have these real serious conversations.
Yeah, and I'm all about, laughing and joking and whatever the case may be. But when it comes to the idea for I feel like don't nobody love y'all like I love y'all. And I'm sure people do. But I love men. I specifically love Black men and the things that they represent as people. The parts of me that they are not. I mean, you know what I'm saying? For the parts of them that I am not is what I meant to say. You get what I'm saying? And like all of that, it's just so fly to me. And I believe that just as other cultures have misappropriated him for who he is, we jumped in on the bandwagon as opposed to learning how to negate those behaviors. We just picked them up, and then we picked them up not only in us as women, but y'all picked them up towards each other too. You get what I'm saying? And so how do we put some things into place to offset that? But and again, I'm not necessarily about the whole answer, but what I need to know is let's just acknowledge that there's an answer that needs to be found. Let's acknowledge that these things happen. Let's acknowledge that we do need some healness. We do need some wellness. We do need to have conversation about how to give our children these tools, how to invest from there. Brother Kwaku said we have to start earlier with when they babies. Let them express a full range of emotions without making them feel soft.
Yes.
And then working in a prison is where I've seen men break down and be vulnerable. They are in a place where nothing else have worked, and they started to heal. But when they came out, most go back to the same tough old silent guy. Oh. And then Beatrice, hey sis, how you doing? Glad to have you join the conversation. Change what you didn't like about your upbringing. Find some alternate ways. Tasha said yes. And she said tell it. So this is kind of where I am with this whole journey. I wanted, like, last week we started it.
Okay.
Today we talked a little bit more about, I know it's no one answer, and I know that, and I know this not, we're going to have one conversation and then
it's all fixed,
and we're going to be all fixing clearly you need to be doing this. If people were cookie cutter, then it'd be easy.
Yeah.
But we are so different. I just had to start with you guys and to give you more of a voice. I mean, who am I to say, oh, now you can speak on your behalf? So it's not that. It's to create a space where you feel like you can. That's it. That is my goal, to create a space where you feel like you can.
Yeah.
Just be. Like, you're a whole person. You got all the feelings. I want you to see that. Like, I try to tell, I remember when we first doing the show, very first shows, I'd be like, you please know that there's a difference between being angry, being irritated, having your feelings hurt, even though y'all act out in the same way. Not just men, but women too. You may act out similarly, but your response is the same response, but to different emotions. Having your feelings hurt may make you angry, which means they are not even the same thing.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying? But just
and just that nuance right there. Some people aren't even aware of that nuance. It's just, oh, you're angry. Let me walk away. Like, no, I actually need you right now.
Right. I need you right now. And how do we get men to be comfortable? That's the answer to myself in my head. To be comfortable with say, hey, I need you right now. Without hearing, oh, soft ass, bitch, ma'am, please stop with that.
Yeah,
please.
I think you just gotta know who you're dealing with. Honestly, you gotta know who you're with. And if you're met with that, then you have to make a decision. Is this good for my mental health? If not, maybe this ain't it. And
I'm
so
glad you said
that's that accountability piece, because can't put it all on her. If I've gotten the response that I've gotten, I can't get mad, but I have a choice.
But I'm glad to hear you say that. You know what I'm saying? Because I got a choice. Now we have to understand that, and I know I'm just about to make some people mad. So I'm gonna say this, and I'm leaning into the camera so y'all can see me. I don't care how long you've been humping on her. And honestly, it doesn't matter that you have something under kids with her because you was humping for days. Okay. If she is not, and you are not, and he is not good for you emotionally, mentally, then don't be good parents. Just then learn to be good parents and not necessarily we are family. Okay, but be good parents. Okay, because that's what's important, and understand that we may not have been meant to be together in the first place. We're thankful that the seed that we created together is growing, and let's make sure that they're productive and healthy citizens of the society. But that don't mean we got to be together. That don't mean that I have to spend my days and my times um, ridicule picking you apart because you didn't show up to be how I thought you should have shown up.
Exactly.
You get what I'm saying? Go find that person then. And stop forcing yourself. Man, you know, she was gone for me. If you had been an upright, then she wouldn't have been the one that was getting over you. I mean, it's just little things like that get to me. Like, we force relationship. We force people together, and it's not serving us any good.
Yeah.
You know how many people I know spend years and years and years married to somebody that they don't even like?
You can do a whole different show on trauma bonding. It's a real thing, and it's deep.
I don't even like you, but we is together.
Let's smile for these pictures.
You know what I'm saying? I like legitimately, I don't like you. And you be lying to yourself every morning. I'll be laying there next to me. If you wake up every morning and you look at your significant other and you be like, I do not like this nigga. Or you be like, wow, I don't like her.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like her. Not that I don't like the way she look. Not that she's not pretty. Not that I don't find her sexy. I don't like her. Not that I don't like the way he look. Not that he's not a good provider or he hasn't been doing good things. I don't even like this dude. And y'all just settling in and just being together and just wasting time and teaching your children how to be with people they don't like.
And to mask their emotions. So that's where the cycle has to be broken. If we're just real with with ourselves.
See, there we go. That's stop lying to yourself. I think that should just be the tagline for life.
Yeah.
Don't lie to yourself.
Yeah. it's got to start there. It has to.
How do we find your podcast?
So yeah, you can find Adult Public Health Podcast pretty much on everywhere you listen to podcasts, and pretty much it was just created to talk about things like this that affect Black and Brown people from our perspective. So I've been fortunate enough to talk to people all across the country, people talking about food insecurity. I've talked to clinical sexologists and all things that make us us, and these folks got degrees and lived experience, and I love talking to people that have both. So yeah, you can listen to that wherever you find podcasts. You can follow the Adult Public Health Podcast on all social media platforms.
Indeed. So I am going to take this quick moment to thank you guys for hanging out. Shout out to Chef Tasha Jones for joining the conversation. I think that I might have missed. They do a great thing called Meatless Mondays.
Word.
And I tried my first meatless meatloaf
Okay.
last week.
Okay.
It was so delicious.
Nice.
Like I didn't even know what kind. I'm like, don't tell me what it is. I don't want to know. I know it's not meat. It's some type of vegetable. That's fine.
Word.
It was delicious. It was good. I love meatloaf too, so it was really, really good.
Word.
Also, I just want to take another quick moment and let you guys know that I've been speaking with my good friend Ruben, and he asked me to give away some comedy show tickets. So I want to make sure I pull that up really quick and make sure I mention that Mr. Ruben Hopkins has a show called, it's a Ruben's Bucket List Stand Up on Valentine's Day, live on stage, dinner and comedy from 6 to 9 p.m. Tickets are at eventbrite.com, bucket list, but guess what? Let me see when the date is. I'm trying to look here, whatever. So the date of the event, I'm opening it up right now, just so y'all know. Oh, not that one. Wrong link. I'm putting it up right now because it wasn't on the flyer. February 14th, which is Monday. Next Monday, actually, from 6 to 9 p.m. at the Women's Center, 3020 West Fleet Street. So dig this. I got free tickets. If you would like to attend, please let me know and I will send you the link. And the link that I have will offer you the opportunity to be a part of the audience. I'm sure you could upgrade your ticket later if you want to come check it out. It is a great opportunity to get you some good laughs in, and I'm sure have some nice food. Looking for a Valentine's Day treat, something to do that's a little different. This is it. So if you would like it, we can do couples. I'm going to be giving them some away for if I give them all away today, then I'll do that. If you want the link, inbox me directly on my page. It is Patrice Green. Well, which page do I got? If you want to go and you want to know more about that, inbox me from that as well. If you would like to and you don't know anything about it, you want the link, I'll send you the link just so you can learn more about it. But I do have tickets. If you want to attend, let me know and I'll make it so that you can. I want to thank my guest today, Mr. Mario the Poet. I didn't get a chance to talk with Lord Rudy, even though we talked to him last time. What's his name? Kwaku said, I vote Tasha for her great comments in the chat. Sound like Tasha, you want some tickets? You can have some. Let me know and I'll inbox you. Missy T, what's good? How you doing? If you would like tickets to the comedy show, let me know and I will inbox you. Please don't take tickets and don't use them because that's kind of not okay. It's a little whack. A little bit. Again, the show is brought to you by Balanced Cocktail Lounge and here at 832 East Locust Street, where we've enjoyed our drunken, what's it called? Arnold Palmer. Missy Tay, if you want some too, you let me know. Also by Calm Wellness Services, where we provide opportunities for you to escape the rest of the world. Don't get these hands. If you want to book your appointment, you can go to Wellcom. That's WELKALM.com. And by JPA Elevated, if you are looking to experience some CBD infused products to help with anxiety, stress, minor aches and pains, then go to jpaelevated.com and get your feel. I got you. Day. Y'all know we like to jump it off the way we do around these parts. It's been a pleasure to spend some time with you and my friends here. Yeah. Until next week. Y'all know I always got something to talk about. But until next week, I'll holler.